Hey there, I'm Brandon. This is Dirt Church Devotional, and I'm coming to you today from sunny and snowy Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I was thinking lately about how incredible the human body is, and particularly the eyes. Did you realize that the human eye can only focus on one thing at a time? And what you're focusing on, when you focus on something, everything else kind of it blurs, it goes into the background, and as you focus even more, you tend to magnify what you're focused on. Now, I'll hang on to that thought for a second. I was reading in Leviticus, and I know that that's not everybody's favorite book of the Bible, because Leviticus, it's listing out the law. It's listing out all the ways that we can be wrong. It's listing out all the ways that we can offend God and bring due punishment on ourselves. But as I was reading it, I got to thinking again about the eye and how we focus. And in Leviticus chapter 5, it's listing some sins and the punishment for the sin, and the reality that, we can die for our sin. But then it kind of shifts gears, and it starts talking about sacrifices and the opportunity for forgiveness. And it talks about the reality that if a person has committed this sin and they're guilty, they can bring a sacrifice to be made right with God again. And it starts out with bring a lamb, a 1-year-old lamb or a goat, and sacrifice that. But it says if you can't afford a lamb or a goat, you can bring a couple of birds and you can sacrifice those and you'll be forgiven. But it goes further. It says if you can't afford a couple of birds, bring some grain and sacrifice that. And it says, and you will be forgiven. And it got me to thinking, when we think about Leviticus, we think about God, we think about sin. We can either focus on the sin and the punishment and end up living in fear, or we can focus on the God who says, that's a problem, but I've got a solution. That's the problem, and there's punishment that's liable. You're liable for it, but I've got a solution, and we can focus on the solution. And we can go even further and focus on the God that doesn't want anybody to be lost, no matter how rich or poor, no matter what your background is. He says, I want you to have the opportunity to be made right with me. If you can't afford this, do this. If you can't afford this, do this. And at the end of every single one of them, it says, and they will be forgiven. So what are you going to focus on today? You're going to focus on the past, on the problems. You're going to focus on the God that loves you and wants you to know him, that actually in the New Testament paid the price for you. Check your focus. Chew on that. Like, subscribe, and share this. We'll talk to you next time.